center of excellence and something that can attract the public and showcase the college, seem to want to be somewhere in this sort of a location. So these were some of the major elements that we considered in what was going to drive major planning moves. You'll notice that there's a big blank spot up here. I wanted to make the point that our recommendation for Building A is to consolidate the one-stop student services center here at your front door and adjacent to your administrative building. The numbers that you heard Moss talk about would say that in 2022, if you're building this new building and you're not tearing the old library down, and you're maybe replacing this in kind, area for area, you're still going to end up with a little bit of overage at that point in time because you've built a little bit too much. If that's the case in 2022, then we would suggest that this might be the area to consider taking down part of Building A and giving yourself a little bit of breathing room up here at this end of the campus with some open space. But again, like I think others have mentioned, these are meant to be living documents and guidelines. If that never happens, it never happens. If halfway through your enrollment projections have been different, if you're looking at a different scenario, you may not ever need to go here. But we wanted to make sure that we captured all the variables as defined in the educational master plan so you could see the impact to the campus. And here are some views of just some of the things we've been talking about. You heard WLC kind of talk to you about what's happening on the other side of the street. This would be the new Library Resource Center, Library Learning Resource Center that's in design right now. Science building, if we put a new science building here, would be a bit taller, so it would really give a prominent face on this side of the campus. One of the things to mention real quickly about the Child Care Center, one of the themes that came out of the first town hall meeting was, yes, the Child Care Center needs to be addressed. It's clear that that building is not suited for another 15 or 20 years. And then there was a desire, could it come closer to campus? Could it not be so remote? Could it be more integrated with as people might be coming and going? So while our main recommendation is replace it, replacing it and moving it is an option that we think could create sort of a more convenient location for it, still near the estuary, having its outdoor play space as required. These are some additional views that just kind of give you some before and after scenarios. One of the things to highlight here in addressing the accessibility issues is the idea of installing at this end and also down at the 7th Street corner an elevator and a bridge. This is one of the most sort of difficult areas to navigate. Yes, there's a legal handicap ramp here, but it's really not kind of smooth and convenient and welcoming. And further, you kind of have to come down and come across and go back. I mean, this is a very awkward area. So we looked at ways to try and improve that, improve the accessibility, improve the overall functionality of your main entry plaza. This is where we might be considering if you created sort of your cosmetology spa and salon institute here, dressing up this corner to announce it, giving you sort of being able to penetrate that corner more effectively to look at this as more of a retail storefront kind of environment would help, again, highlight what's going on in campus and give this corner a bit more of a presence. This would be perhaps how this current entrance might look. Again, looking at an elevator element that, again, helps you with your accessible route. And once the new library is built and perhaps a new science center, really creating a different experience at this entry as well. Finally, some of the more subtle recommendations that we've put into our thinking. Up here you can kind of see these are one of the interior courtyards that occur in like Building A, Building E. One of the things that we noticed was that, yes, students kind of come in here sometimes, but maybe not. And you can certainly make more use of these kinds of courtyard spaces if you consider partially covering all the way, creating atriums, those kinds of things. And we thought that those sorts of ideas should be considered for a couple select areas that have sort of specific program adjacencies and could really enhance the programs. For example, at the One Stop, If you have an area where as students are doing their business sort of in the building, they can come out, they can sort of sit, relax, talk to people, look at the materials that they've just gotten. We thought that that might be, some of the things you might consider in better utilizing a few of these courtyards. Certainly a lot of them would want to stay exterior space just like they are, but this might be an idea for a few. Over here where the construction technology program, the little building area is back here, this canopy needs to be addressed seismically. And right now there's a lot of cross traffic between the pedestrian circulation, the loading dock functions. Our recommendations are to start to organize this space a little bit better, and also through wayfinding elements, start to make the approach a bit more structured so that there's a separation between vehicular or delivery traffic and pedestrian traffic, and start to introduce signage elements, banners, things that would help actually cue you to where you are and where you needed to go. In looking at how this comes together, these are some of the priorities that in the course of the town hall meetings and discussions that we identified that we needed to consider in setting up the phasing. So in the first phase, you'd be looking at, and this is really already complete, so it wasn't at the start of our work, but it is now, completing that Beginners in renovation project and now really having, a showcase culinary arts program. And part of taking better advantage of that estuary, I think now will soon be realized by the introduction of that new space. Another project that's already underway, which WLC is actually designing, is modernizing the Student Center building. And again, I think that's a very important first project to continue to improve and activate this quad, this central quad, which most people identified as the heart of the campus. Another project that's already underway as well is the new field house and athletic fields. And modernize the theater building. This is something that has been in the queue for state funding. But it was pushed back a little bit later, and based on some of the things we were hearing, we're recommending trying to consider how to move it forward and bring it into the short term rather than the long term. So we've heard that more than once as a priority for Laney's campus. Consolidating the construction technology programs. And I think what we want to note here, and I appreciate the comment from one of the stakeholders and acknowledge that we may not have done a very good job introducing this last week at the town hall meeting. The recommendations from Moss to consider consolidating programs at various campuses. In this case, as noted, the impact could be to the welding and machine technology programs, which currently reside in Building F. In order for us to provide you the information you need to begin evaluating that suggestion, we needed to look at, well, what does it do for you? Well, if it helps to free up space here to create a new science center, and it helps provide a little bit more storage space and some needed space for the construction and green technology programs, and we propose maybe putting the green demonstration house out here in sort of the front plaza as a showcase, these could be some of the benefits you might gain. If you don't move it to another campus, certainly what we've tried to do is build enough flexibility into these overall numbers and moves that there are still ways to retain those programs at Laney and find other options. And then renovate Building G, to relocate cosmetology to the corner. And then finally, I think as Leo's already acknowledged, continuing in each one of these phases to address your infrastructure needs. In this case, one of the things we recommend focusing on is if you're going to be moving cosmetology here, go ahead and see about fitting in some landscaping focus on and along Fallon Street to really enhance this move. And again, throughout these phases, addressing parking is going to be critical. The second phase, the midterm phase, this is about when, I'm sorry. No, student services is not in Building G right now.
Where the machine shop is.
Right, where the machine shop is right now. So in the second phase, the library is already underway, and this is about kind of given the current state scenario and where they are in their process that we anticipated this project would be coming online. modernizing the gym and locker rooms. This is also a project that's sort of already listed in the state funding priorities. And then in order to consider constructing a new science or math building, science and math building here, or just a science building, this, given the urgency and certainly our own assessment of the labs that are existing at Laney,